Right, everyone, welcome to the stream. So off stream, I did a whole bunch of work to clean up the PR so that it's easy. Clean up the PR and synchronize the Git submodules with master so that it's easier to review. So I'm going to take a look at what the status is. I think the white space has been fixed by William Brink, and hopefully we can make some progress. Excuse me. Okay. All right, so I'm already on branch EIO here. It's just, well, I'm already in code, so there's no need to open anything. I'm just gonna pull this up in the browser again. I closed the previous PR that this PR is based on. And let's just go straight to the http.ml file. All right. So this is a little bit concerning because there's nothing to replace the initialization of mirage-crypto-rng here. But this is a different file anyway. But since I'm looking at this, I better just check that there is something to replace it. So that's actually kind of weird. Okay, yeah, this modular random is not the std lib random, it's dream zone random, I believe. Yeah, it's this thing. Or is it? Yeah, it is. So yeah, I guess these values are missing now. That's kind of concerning. I need to find out. I guess since I spotted this, it's a good place to start. It's just to figure out what's going on with random mirage-crypto-rng-eio. So let's go back to the EIO branch. Actually, let's review random. Should be in Cipher. Okay, yeah, so it's basically what's happening here is there's some kind of lazy initialization going on, but I think in this lazy initialization was you basically install a function as a sort of plugin, and the initialization would happen when as needed. But now capability has to be passed in order to initialize it. So somewhere there's now a new run function, and somewhere this has to be called. Oops. Okay. I don't know if this is really the right place. It's just a good thing to be aware of. I see. I don't know. I can't say that I'm a really big fan of this. So basically random.run is a big wrapper around everything else. Yeah, I don't know. So let's look at this function here. I'm gonna do a build just to get Dune to get the language server. Oh man, come on. Probably should leave a comment about fixing these warnings. Because even though they're easy to work around, like just passing profile release, still it's annoying. If they can be fixed, then I think it's better to fix it. So yeah, I just currently work around that. Is it reasonable? Because it could be that these warnings aren't fixable in a reasonable way anyway, because they are just related to maybe some code that's temporarily deleted during this PR, which we'll be adding back in. But if it's reasonable to fix most of them, then maybe it's best to just do it. Okay, let's do this. What's happening with my mouse now? I can barely like select the letter that I want to select. Something like this. Okay. So anyway, let's just continue. We do have this very concerning warning here. But anyway, let's figure out how mirage-crypto-rng-eio is supposed to work, because it looks like now it's going to be a wrapper around everything, which I seriously don't like. Okay. So basically, if we want to use mirage-crypto-rng-eio with the eio like library and main loop, this is the only way it offers to do it, because this whole interface offers only one value. Okay. That's interesting. It's interesting to consider that this random numbers might be needed in multiple domains. So I guess run does some kind of basically it's consuming an ephemeral entropy stream, essentially. Yeah. So basically the same thing that I was talking yesterday about there being a bug in Dream with reading one ephemeral stream from multiple. In that case, it was concurrent fibers, but in this case, it would be parallel domains. So this would, I'm assuming this prevents it somehow. That's what it says in the comment anyway. Yeah, it's kind of a bummer in a way that everything becomes like all these libraries that have a little bit of initialization. They seem to like to wrap the function that you want to use them with. Right. Oh, we should close this. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I don't really like it, but that's just how it is for now. I don't think it's wrong. Yeah, it's just a question of, it makes me suspicious about the design. So in the past, where was this? So this initialization used to just happen. So the initialization used to happen randomly, not randomly, lazily. When, so I believe this initialized, let's see, this is probably completely private. All right. So there's no interface for this file, right? Okay, yeah, there is. But this interface is like, is this a real interface or was it, yes, generated? Okay, so there's no interface for this file. So we have to do static analysis the old way. Yeah, so this is only accessed from inside random.ml, and also yeah, this is never used, this function. And then initialize should be called basically like one place somewhere. Yeah, this is the place that corresponds to how inside the PR there is a wrapper called to like a mirage-crypto-rng-eio. So that's the corresponding place. But that's just basically linking in this module causes this initialization to happen. So the initialization is considerably delayed. I need to make a note of that for myself, because it might come up later. Because there's a reason why, if I quit these stupid, yeah. Let me silence the phone too. Yeah, these apps, like you quit them, but they just come back. Like WhatsApp and Telegram. Okay, so just a note to self. This initialization, I believe there was a reason why I was initializing things early, because logging messages might happen. The way like run works, the way Dream works is while it's like parsing these arguments or like interpreting these arguments, it can already print some log messages. Although I think this is basically the same because this is the earliest point you would enter Dream. Okay, so it's probably not significant, but it might be significant. So I just want to make sure that after I look at other things, that I consider this carefully as well. Okay, so it's good that I spotted that. Let's get back to http.ml. All right, so this is in the request handler. I can probably just review the HTTP app request handler, and the H2 one is basically analogous. So if we see the same kind of diff in the H2 handler, then it's just going to be slightly different. Then we can just accept it, assuming that this is correct, or at least appears correct. I see the way Willem Brink indented this. He's using a begin to make the inner indentation match, which is a neat way of doing it. I don't know if he's using an auto formatter or what. So at this point, we're basically ignoring a promise that's going to be generated here. So this is like a sort of concurrent-ish procedure. Okay, so this is basically a whole bunch of I/O happens here that isn't clearly expressed. So this basically depends on that HTTPF is calling these callbacks, these handlers, in different fibers or something, right? Which I hope it is. I'm curious actually if the base HTTPF has any work to make it compatible with EIO. I'm just going to look in this repo for a second. Yeah. I guess the answer is there is no work, but I'm going to subscribe to this issue, and let's continue to the one that we use, which is Antonio's. Okay. Actually, I can probably just, since now I have all these developer tools working, I can probably just read the code inside this. Okay. There's probably no documentation on this. Yeah. About the like Fibre behavior. Yeah, there's no documentation. A little bit annoying. I just don't want to make an assumption. So many wrappers. Okay, EIO net run server. Okay, so then the question is going to be, yeah, probably HTTPF doesn't spawn any fibers. It's going to probably be EIO.net, which I really like. I'm expecting does have documentation. Okay, here we go. Oh man, long lines. Great. I need to open an issue about this. Okay, so we already see the keyword confirmed, so that's a good sign. Okay, accept fork. The question is, I'm guessing that this creates fibers. Yeah, so by default, it runs on a single domain. So that's a good thing because it means that since this eio.net call occurs at a very fairly high level. So with details is basically the underlying implementation of Dream.run. It's only like a couple of function calls in. This means if someone wants to pass a different strategy for Dream to create fibers for the request that it's handling, then it shouldn't be a problem to work that in. So that's a good thing. There are several potential benefits, Lesby. One is, yeah, performance. If you for some reason have an IO bound web server. Another benefit is I mean, some people consider this a benefit, direct style. Another benefit is understanding the exception handling is going to be much better. So, I mean, the overall benefit of something like EIO is moving away from this problem with having LWT and async also. Okay, so I'm going to put myself a note here. Yep. Like in the future, this note is about me making a note for myself in the future, and that other note needs to contain information about, or like a pointer about passing in a domain, creating strategy to this run server call. Should be fairly easy to pass this from, to provide an optional argument to dream.run to provide it as an optional argument. Yeah, that's a good thing. Maybe we can run it. So it should be fairly easy to run experiments with like having a Dream server that spawns, like for example, 16 domains, up to 16 domains, and just serves. Okay. So I'm not going to read the code for this. I'm assuming that if it's an EIO and it says that it's concurrent, then it's creating fibers. But yeah, I need to read the documentation of accept fork. I'm assuming that's forking, quote unquote, forking fibers. Nice. Okay, yeah, accepts a connection and handles it in a new fiber, which is basically the same thing as, I mean, I'm sure the implementation is quite different, but notionally it's the same thing as LWTs, except returning you multiple promise, like a new promise every time. Right. So I think this is fine. But we're passing basically what looks like a synchronous procedure, but it's actually causing effects. Yeah, and this function didn't change. I already looked at adapt earlier. I'm going to skip all the WebSocket stuff for now. I need to put like a review note about that. So I don't actually forget to, actually, no, I'm going to review everything else anyway this whole way. So I'm not going to forget WebSockets. Okay, so that's the actual handler. What is this? This was online in 118-ish. on line 71. So that's this. Yeah, I'm kidding. I like never actually use this diff view on GitHub to do reviews. I just thought it's the one that's going to be the easiest to follow on stream. But it's turning out to be quite difficult for me to follow. Okay, so we have a second function called http, which is a little bit confusing. But that's like my fault. Right, this should have been called h2 request handler. That hasn't changed in this PR. So that was my mistake originally. Okay, so that's gonna basically be the same. And in the end, we're just we're composing all these handlers. These handlers basically get passed into a thing that decides to call one of them based on the result of ALPM, which is like protocol negotiation that happens when an SSL connection is made. So like when an SSL connection is made, the connection itself, like the first messages sent during the connection, say which protocol the client wants to follow, and then the server chooses one of these handlers. So either way, they get passed to eio.net.run server, and that's concurrent. Some white space changes here. That's okay though. All right, so that's fine. This I need to learn about. So let's go to line 285. Is it possible to, I want to move this to this side. Yeah, no, that was a bad idea. Okay, so stream is a really misleading type name for an address, which is a little bit annoying. Oh yeah, I understand why. So it's because it's the module name contains the fact that it's an address. So we just have a streaming. It's still annoying. Yeah, it's for streaming, like a suck stream basically. Okay, so that's fine. It's fine. I mean, to me, at first this looked like this was converting just an address into like some kind of stream object, but it's actually just an address for an address. And here, I need to understand EIO flow. Understand ish. Oh, great. Glasses. Unfortunate. All right, so anyways, some kind of file descriptor-ish thing. I'm not gonna look at it in detail right now. I just want to make sure that it's the semantics are similar. In particular, I'm looking for whether things like we found yesterday, I'm looking for whether something that used to be non-blocking has become blocking, or something that used to be definitely not concurrent, and that used to be, how to say, protected by effectively like a mutex, has become concurrent. So like changes like this. So this too looks like a EDA expansion, meaning these were just left off. So this function is partially applied and it's just fully applied at this point, probably because of optionals or something. Yeah, I'm going to skip this. I'm sure. I mean, we reviewed the actual function, and I hope that these two functions, the one in EIO and LBT Unix, are analogous. I'm not going to like review those libraries at this point. So this, I believe, this is commented out now, but was not before, right? This is on line 311. Yeah. So it looks like SSL support is gone temporarily. Maybe I should add a note about that, so I can grep for it later easily. So yeah, I'm wondering why this became an optional, but it's not significant, I think. I'll just put a note again. Interesting. So I'm wondering, in this PR, we still have the Unix call, right? I understand the Unix is still, like the calls in Unix are still blocking. So this is probably just something that was missing from EIO temporarily. Wait a minute. Yeah. And just to make sure. As I recall, get excuse me, get attr info is blocking, right? Because it can do the DNS lookups. Like at the C level, this is a blocking call. It's been a while, obviously, since I like did all these bindings and maintained LWT and called get attr info. I guess one very easy way to check to just like, I do recall that that's the case, but to be like extra sure, is just to look in LWT. Actually, now I have, based on people's advice, I was able to install OCP browser. What? I don't have LWT installed. Okay, I do. Yeah, it returns a promise because, of course, it's a blocking call. Okay. This UI is painfully slow on GitHub because of this huge diff. Okay, so this corresponds to that. Is stop actually used anywhere? I believe Thomas Leonard also left a comment about stop. Yeah, it is. I don't know if I didn't see that. It's right here. Okay. So yeah, we didn't have a backlog argument before. Although I think we could have, because as I recall, LWT does support that. So it's kind of like just a new feature in this PR, which is fine. Switch net is probably the capability. Interesting. Exactly. Let's be effects. Basically, with quote unquote color functions, you have real functions. As long as you stick to not using like Unix and not doing like print inline or something, your functions are actual functions that return promises. But with effects, you never know. Things that have the function type might actually be procedures that cause effects, meaning they read from the outside world or they write to the outside world, and you have no way of telling from the type. So the arrow has like a different meaning when you have effects in the language. The whole language becomes actually completely imperative. Although technically OCaml was already completely imperative, and because you could always call like Unix dot whatever and just block. But how to say, like switching to this kind of library is kind of like stepping back into that world where we're just with better blocking semantics than before. Yeah, I left a big comment about that in the PR also, about this specific topic. Because as I was like looking at the interface of Dream right now, you can, I don't know if you saw that yesterday, so please stop me if I'm like repeating myself. I'm like physically repeating myself, but I mean like for you. For example, yeah, it's concerning because, for example, if you look at this function body right now in Dream's API, it's returning a string promise. So this is a colored function, right? So this body like value with arrow type actually is a function that just basically sets up a computation that eventually will give you a promise. Eventually will give you a string, but it returns you a promise immediately. Whereas in the PR, this is just a alpha message to string function, but it's not actually a function, because what it does is it like basically spawns a fiber, and that fiber can block while computing for you the string. So you don't just get a string promise immediately, which you can just store somewhere and like bind on to synchronize. You just have to actually wait for that function to complete, and there's no like synchronization primitive wrapped around that whole IO operation. That actually caused a bug inside the PR, where because of misuse of this conversion, two operations that couldn't really run concurrently before could now be run. That's actually one of my comments in the review. Yeah, so adding effects to language actually does kind of like, I believe there are plans. I think like originally 5.10 was supposed to add typed effects or something, or checked effects. I don't know if that's the same thing actually, but I don't know if those plans are still in force. Is that clear? Excuse me. Yeah. Yeah, I guess were type defects, would they eventually cause they would have to cause annotation on the type, right? Because no, you're probably like, I know you're joking, but you're probably not joking. Type defects, it's fine by the way, like it's fine to ask the same question because like either somebody else in the stream it might say something new or I might realize something that I didn't realize before. Yeah. Yeah, so basically adding effects to the language makes the language not functional anymore in a very like conclusive way. Although it's still like functional-ish. And regarding type defects, I guess they would the fact that they're typed means they will be annotated in some way. So that might bring back the functionalness of the language. So I guess that's a good thing to look forward to. I don't know what the current plans are and what type defects would look like. Okay, yeah. So I should let the whole comment about how misleading this becomes. Over here, and I called it a slight objection. I'll just send it in the chat so you can look at it if you want. But it's the same. It's basically what I just said. It's just more literate since it's written out. But anyway, yeah, back to the review. Yeah, I guess in that case, this comment, this objection will be answered by type defects. I hadn't actually thought of that, so it's good. It's good that you asked this question, and yeah, Zeklar commented on that. So I guess we can switch to EIO and just pray for type defects to come soon and save us from this non-functional like web framework that I'm going to create by merging this PR. All right. Anyway, this looks fine, I think. So this is just some EIO stuff. Net, again, I wanted to just double check that this is the capability, but I'm like 99% sure that it is. Yep. Let's just actually, can we click on this tooltip? No. A little bit annoying. That's okay. Okay. I'm going to assume that EIO is correct or will be correct soon, so I'm not going to review in detail the internals of these functions. I'm going to just ask a question about this. Actually, I know why it's about. It's just easier for them to propagate. The stop is optional to begin with at the outer interface, and I guess it wasn't optional for these functions, but it's optional for a run server. So it's just easiest to propagate stop as an optional everywhere. So I'm not gonna ask about that. It's pretty clear. And what's this stuff that's commented out? Yeah, that's this branch over here. Yeah, so we're just not going to do any of this reading of certificates. That explains all the warnings that I was seeing. Most likely. So we can just skip this. It's interesting. It looks like William Brick attempted to port this and gave up the SSL support. Now that we have a backlog, I never made a decision that the backlog should be 10, right? Like there was no review or consideration for why it should be this way. So I'm gonna just add myself a note. Consider why this is 10, review it. But this is like separate from the main like goal of this PR at this point. So I'm gonna just not do it right now. I like this. TLS, no. All right, so all this is just argument passing. And this is just taking capability out of a bigger like blob of capabilities. I think this excuse me. I think this capability passing. I used the JISH, I used the Nano for a long time. I used Sublime, I believe, for a while, and before that, I don't remember. It's been a long time. I never used the Vim or Emacs extensively. I only used them like when I had to. So, yes. And welcome to the chat, by the way. All right, so this is just, yeah, regarding the capability passing, I think it's correct. It's good for us to have it inside Dream. I just don't want it to be forced upon every user, like in the simple interface of Dream on the outside. So Dream should probably have a capability passing interface. I'm thinking of creating a library called like Dream, like under dash dream-eio pcap or something, for like Mirage basically, and for people who want to pass capabilities around. And then the actual Dream library will wrap that and provide like a convenience function that just doesn't. We're gonna need an EIO convenience library for people that don't want to do capability passing. So the Dream wrapper will use that convenience library to just get like all the capabilities globally. In my imagination. I wonder if this is still necessary. Do we even use like LWT anywhere? Outside of comments. This is probably going to pick up a whole bunch of comments. Yeah. That sucks. Okay, the easiest way to check is then just to delete this. Yeah. All right. Let's see if it still builds. Yes. So we do use this in some WebSocket stuff, at least. What about here? Okay, there's no LWT left here. It's just in this shared library, which I believe is shared between client and server. So this code eventually, Hyper, the client has to also be ported to EIO at the same time as Dream. Okay. So I think actually this is fine. So the core of Dream is basically fine-ish. So I think what I'll do next is I'll find the first example that doesn't work in some way, and then either we'll try to diagnose it real quick, and probably ask Bloomberg if he can fix it. I mean, I already know this works, but I'm gonna just verify it just to be absolutely sure. It's gonna probably complain. Yeah. This is why I'm asking for those warnings to be fixed. Because even if I can build the main library by changing the makefile, it's gonna be annoying adding this flag to every example build. I wonder if I can do this so I don't have to type. No, it's not going to work because the file is not in the directory yet. That's what I get for calling all the examples, giving all of them different file names. Okay, I don't think there's any way this could be broken. Like if it's working at this point, it's just working. We could do something like a creator cause this this example to respond very slowly and just open two tabs and see if we can do this concurrently. We'll see it in the log if it's concurrent. So let's go to middleware. And actually, I don't even know what I'm doing here because I don't know how to make this wait with EIO. If someone knows how to sleep with EIO, please tell me. Oh God, there's a Fibre and a Fibre with the British spelling. That's amazing. I'm guessing EIO time. Maybe it has a sleep. Yeah. Yeah. Originally it was supposed to be called Fibre, but then like the Doom team released a library called Fibre. So then the EIO team wanted to call their library Fibre RE. And I remember I was objecting to this like in Slack and elsewhere. I was like, guys, can we just negotiate? Like, I don't think anyone is, I could be wrong, but I don't think people are going to use the Doom Fibre library that much. And this is like interfering with the name of a module in like what's supposed to be the base IO library for OCaml in the future. So I'm glad that it's that there's now an eio.fibre er. Okay. Sleep until, or just sleep. So eio times sleep, and I need a clock capability. So that's going to come from env somehow. Probably not like this. And let's sleep for like 10 seconds to give ourselves plenty of time to like really slowly move the mouse and create a new tab. We're gonna just guess clock. Okay. It's the best way to program is to just guess. Okay, so now we have, this is loading. I just want to see it do one request correctly. And we'll look at the timestamps as well. Interesting. Yeah. So that was 2 seconds, 12 seconds, 12 seconds, 22 seconds. Okay, so it's good. I don't know why I quit that server. Let's just refresh this and spawn a second one. That's kind of concerning over here. Right? We don't see a second log message. Look how many microseconds. Maybe, you know, I was considering in the implementation of this to go to milliseconds when it's too many microseconds. I might even have that, but I wasn't expecting to do it for seconds. Although I guess it's possible, right? If you like serve something huge and you like synchronously want to respond with it, or just start some kind of giant computation. I guess that's possible inside an API. It's like more likely, right? Yeah, so this second request was originally sent, excuse me, concurrently, but the log for it does not appear concurrently. Yep, that was OCP browser, Zeglar. It doesn't install in 5.0, but someone, I forgot who, told me that I can pin it to the dev repo and it will build. So let me just, this fab icon thing is messing up my analysis, because it does look like 2 requests happen here concurrently. Let's use curl or something, or http. I don't know how to pronounce that. Make sure the server's running. Let's actually, before I do that, let's change it to 5 seconds, because 10 seconds is too annoying. I just want to observe what happens, just to verify that it doesn't run for 5 seconds and everything else. Well, it doesn't, because I have to rebuild it. Okay, great. So now let's do 2 of these concurrently. I'll just do it like this. Okay, so it does seem to work concurrently. I don't know what's going on with the browser there. Yeah. Let's spawn 5 and just see all of them cascade and finish. Yeah. All right, looks good. All right, good thing I verified this inside the browser. I don't even remember what this example does. Nice. Sorry, I'm like abusing your nicknames, Zekler. Oh, warning. Zekler not that? I'm just kidding. Yeah, this is just a fab icon. Okay. I don't think there's anything that could really be broken with this example, given that the other examples worked and we also have concurrent requests. Because the router itself is like basically functional. Let me just, for practice sake, for my own practice sake, do a sleep here. Let's do a 3-second sleep in both of these branches. Okay. Yeah, they're concurrent. Right. Yeah, I mean, this one is not going to be any more broken. Like, there's no way for this to be broken, I think. So we already know that these work concurrently. I mean, this middleware is not concurrency. It is actually concurrency safe, right? And fibers are concurrency safe. They correspond to like green threads. They just continue to work in a single domain until descheduled. Okay, I don't know what happened with the stream. I'm just gonna give myself a note to look into like what to do about streams dying. All right, sorry about that. Back to reviewing this. So I don't think this counter example can be really broken. It's still concurrency safe because everything's running in one Fibre. If we make the choice, so if I make the choice as a developer, right? What I meant is, as the user, if I make the choice, if I as the developer expose the ability to create, to like spawn multiple domains in Dream.run, then the user will have to just be aware of what they're doing. But that's going to be the user's choice to use multiple domains, so the user will know. Hopefully they're doing that. So I don't think it's going to really be broken. There's nothing else to really try in this example. Let's go to the next one, promise. So I actually wonder what they did with the promise example, because I don't think there's really, this example should have died. I think it's just a middleware example at this point. Let's build it. The reason I built it is so I can get these annotations, because this function is now, oh no, these annotations are pretty useless. Yeah. All right. But anyway, from the types, we know that this has to be a non-promise function at this point. And there's already a note in the PR from Willem Brink that this example is not now misnamed, which it is. Let's actually see what happens here with this exception. I just created an internal name. Actually, I want to see the output. So okay, so we're counting requests, successful requests, and let's fail. Okay. I believe this is the output that you would expect, that there's no debugger, because this is like the fake debugger. Like the default debugger, like Dream doesn't have a debugger installed by default. You have to opt into it, because everyone knows when you like publish a web app and you have the debug enabled because you forgot to disable it. So by default, Dream only puts to the log. It doesn't actually show a web page to the user. What I want to do is I want to look at this output and I want to compare it to what it looks like on master. I'm gonna just go ahead and commit the stuff in SRC, and everything else I'm going to revert. Like the changes to the example were just temporary things. That's all right. Yeah, it's the same. I'm going to review in detail how EIO exception handling works. I better put myself a note, give myself a note about that. So, in fact, actually there is another core file that I didn't review yet, so I should probably look at that now, which is errorhandler.ml, because that's where this is coming from, all these like default error handlers and whatnot. This is what this file does is it takes all the different like kinds of errors that could occur in different contexts. For example, there might be an exception that gets passed up by one of the users Dream handlers, so like an ordinary function. We might also get an exception that's coming from like http AF or somewhere that has a lot less information associated with it, and it kind of just unifies everything and creates one exception handler that can handle all these kinds of different errors. So most of this is just glue code, and I don't think it should really be affected by EIO. Like there's no real concurrency issues here. It's just a bunch of translations. Yeah, it's just a translation to direct style. It's a little bit concerning because again, this used to be a function. This used to be a function that returned the promise. I'm going to have to review this actually at some point in detail. But most likely, it's the thing is these run in the context of handlers, the same way the http handler was. It was fine to convert it to direct style and to effectful procedures that can block, because the eio.net ensured concurrency, eio.net.run server, and these just run in that same context. So I think it's fine that, because previously this was a function that immediately returned the promise, but now it's a procedure that can block inside effect handlers because of this over here, because f is a function that can block. But I think that's fine. As an initial like review, I believe this is going to be fine. This is probably an artifact of the conversion. This is a little bit concerning too, because what this was doing was forwarding exceptions to the async exception handler, and now I don't know where those exceptions are going. So I do have to, okay, I'm going to put myself a note. I have to just in detail find out if this was supposed to run quote unquote concurrently with the rest of the process of like what's going on here in the computation. What happens when you call this function directly, and in particular what happens with the errors. And there are several places like this, but I'm going to just annotate this specific one on line 428 or not. It's kind of weird. Oh yeah, I'm on bench master. Yeah, you're right, Rika, you're right. That's why in that PR comment I called them true-ish, right? True-ish functions. Because yeah, they've already started the IO. Okay, so but they're like closer to functions, right? Because they kind of like trigger the IO and then they just behave like function after that, whereas the things that actually like wait for the IO. So they're like they're like definitely procedures. Um, yeah, and this double fault function is like we're handling an exception, and if another exception occurs in the middle of this, then we're just gonna give up. Basically, we're gonna continue like doing our best to reply to the client, or at least log something or something. But if not, then we'll just, I think, I don't remember like double false. Actually, let me look. Yeah. Well, actually, this answers my question about where this goes. Yeah, this is like a final effort to catch whatever exception comes out of handling, trying to handle exceptions and other errors. It's a lot like a processor, right? And you have like double faults and then you have triple faults and then your processor resets, at least for Intel. Okay. So I think this is fine. Every time I say that, I remember our famous last words. Let's go on to the sixth example, which is, yeah, that's good actually. That's a good word. That's better than double false. I'm gonna rename this to falseception. Thank you. people will get it. I'll leave you since you gave me this idea. I'll make sure. Okay. Echo. This might be the first one that will fail because it has a non-get method, if I recall correctly. Yeah. Let's build this thing. Yeah. And, whoops. Come on. Code just completely freaked out. I closed like all windows when I wanted one window closed. I probably need to like relearn shortcuts because I'm basically using like macOS shortcuts on Windows here. Back to the terminal. No. He's over here. Excuse me. What is wrong with this thing? Am I like in this workspace even? Yeah. I don't know why I was doing that. It was like refusing to use the right pane. Okay, so I just like close all windows and start over. All editors. And back to. Okay, well, I want the warning. Anyway, next time I see that warning, I need to remember to like give myself a note to look into it. Yeah, and this example actually has like a non-trivial usage. So let's do this. Actually, let's use this over here. I just like http more for these little tests. All right. So yeah, this was, we found this last stream as well. That the server doesn't seem to respond to post requests. So I think the easiest thing to do is just to leave a comment about that and see if Willem Brink is will, right? Let's hide that from the monitor. See if Willem Brink is able to just fix that. Maybe he knows what could be causing that. It's like it's in his mental cache already. And if not, then we'll debug it. Let's be nice and give him a link to the README. And let's do one more thing, just to make sure that there isn't a bug in master with this. So, right. Yep, so it works in master. And yeah, I'm not gonna test it with curl. It's not gonna, it's gonna be broken with both. Okay, I'm gonna test it with curl. Just to be thorough. Let's do it this way. Yeah, so it works in master with curl. Okay, here we go. But it doesn't work neither with curl nor with HTTP. What do you mean by respond properly? I think you have to just send headers and an empty response, right? I actually don't remember. That's a good question. Let me finish this comment to Willenbrink, and then we'll look at head requests and what the response should look like whether Dream can even generate a response that would be expected by a client. If you know off the top of your head what the proper response looks like to header request, where there's just a bunch of headers with an empty body, that's what I seem to recall, but I haven't looked at it in a long time. And as for the router, I believe the router is able to understand head requests. All right, anyway, real quick. It's actually concerning, right? That this doesn't ever return because there's like a restore terminal thing afterwards. All right. We'll look at this later. So it was do exec. Okay, let's see the example, set cycle. I should probably verify these commands work so you can actually paste them. So we can both be productive. Oh man. I'm gonna just leave that here. Like this. Yeah, it's still hanging. I think it's just gonna be stuck. So let's do this. Let's continue on to the next example then. Oh yeah, let's do it. Let's answer the question about header requests. As I recall, the response to header request from the RFC, not from even MDN, but from the RFC, should just be like it should look like a normal GET response, but it should have a no body. And also, the router does have a head value. Rika, I hope this is sufficient to answer. But yeah, I do recall, by the way, that it should be that if you already have a content like that, or Dream doesn't add its own. Yeah, you'd have to look at that actually, what the order is. But you should be able to, at the very least, work around that by mutating the request to have a content length header of 0 using like add header and replace header, whatever they're called. It's been a while. Where's headers? Yeah, like you should be able to do something like drop a set header, response, content length like 42. And I believe Dream automatically tries to set the content length on outgoing responses if the body is already forced, if it's already available. But I think it doesn't do that if there's already a content length header. So if you set one yourself, it should just respect the one that you set. Let me know if yeah, no worries. This stream is about general stuff. It's not about, there isn't like a specific goal to just like review like this PR as quickly as possible. We can just do anything. And actually, I welcome questions. Like if I'm just like talking in the stream, like basically when you've already suggested multiple things that have made like my life easier or have made the review better or just revealed other bugs that I wasn't considering. So it's worth it. I don't count it as an interruption. And by the way, that is a bug. If you are unable, like if you are creating a request, let me pull up this response. If you're creating a request and it has headers, something, something, and then also a body, is that what you're doing? If these headers contain content length like 42, and then you also have a body of like a different length, or actually, yeah, if you have a, yeah, you have to have an empty string here. If this is computing like a content length here, then that's a bug actually. But I don't think it is. I think the content length is only getting set on the outside when the response goes out back to http AF, in which case I don't actually understand what's happening. Like my mental model is definitely wrong right now. Yeah, anyway, Dream should, like whatever's happening, Dream should respect manually set content length. Like when I say should, I mean that's my intent. It's not a statement about what it technically does right now, which could be wrong. Anyway, yeah. If you discover that it isn't, please open an issue and we'll fix it. Okay. In the meantime, that was 7. Let's do this example. I think this one should work. Understand? Because why? Yeah. What? Yeah, I totally just built it like HTTP. Okay, so this works obviously. And I don't think there's any way it can really be broken. This whole example is just hello world, but with this instead. Okay, this could be broken, depending on whether the debugger still works after all the changes that have been made. So let's exec. Interesting. Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, so you have to, so Dream has a debugger, but it's just disabled by default, so you don't accidentally deploy with it. So that you statically know when you are using it. When I say debugger, I'm talking very loosely, of course. It's just this like web page. Let me just see if there are any other conditions. I think there's an exception condition in the debug example. Oops, what am I doing here? I'm trying to open. How do I even close this now? So, okay, so let's go to /bad. Yeah, this gives us a specific request. So this is what happens when you have the debugger installed and return a bad request. And then this is what happens if you raise an exception and the debugger is installed. And also it's doing that same logging that we saw before. This is the default debugging. You can also change, of course. You can change what how this works. Okay. And this is, I believe, a custom debugger screen. Yeah. Oops. Really? I see. Is there also an error handler? Yeah. Yes, I think this just has to be deleted. Yeah, because what happened is at some point there were both these two were active. And then I realized that if we just provide an error handler that is a default error handler, then there's no point. Yeah, thank you. You are welcome. It's very easy. But I can just obviously do this myself. But not on this branch, so I'm gonna just say okay, anyway, I think this works because it can't really be broken by that port, given that the other examples weren't broken by it. So let's move on to A, which is it's git bug, but I have some like wrapper script around it, which calls, I think, git bug term UI. Yeah, this. And I'm using like a older version because the newest version is like incompatible with bugs that were created using the old version, and I don't think it really offers me any advantages. So I'm using like 070, but it's this thing. I'll just put a link here. Yep. Okay. So doing exec. Yeah, so this is just the custom log messages. So I mean, I'm gonna go faster because most of these examples can't really be broken. I can just do this. One of the nice things about, even though I named all the examples with different names, because I have these prefixes, because they're supposed to be in tutorial order, I can just type in like b-ml and it's just gonna, the autocomplete automatically opens the right file. I mean, this potentially could be broken. Let's see. I haven't really reviewed what happens with session support. So we're just like shooting in the dark here as to whether this is likely or not to be broken. How does this work exactly? Yeah, so if there's no user field in the cookie or something, yeah, in the session that's associated, this is using in-memory sessions, yeah. So if the user is not logged in because there is no user field, then we just log them in and call them Alice. Okay. Okay. All right, so that seems to work. All right, let's open c-ml, which is not, yeah, it's this cookie example. I mean, this is not going to be broken because it's the same example basically. It's actually the same example in terms of operation on the HTTP level. It's just using the cookie interface instead of the more specific session interface. Okay, yeah. D-ml is forms. This is going to be broken because of post. So I'm probably going to just check that real quick. Okay, so we have a form, use git bug, and it's going to just hang, which is expected given the post example. Okay, the JSON example. Can't be broken, so I'm going to just not check it. This is like famous last words. This example has some new code, right? Because it has this, like instead of passing in a path, it has like this EIO stuff going on. So I'm going to just look at it. So this is basically serving the current directory, which contains what? Interesting. Oops. Yeah, so all the files inside the directory, that the source directory of the example, are available through that web server-ish. Okay. What's the next example? Upload. Okay, this is like very likely to be broken in some way. Let's upload the camel. If someone follows me right now, you should see this camel, but actually, interestingly, that didn't occur during the stream, right? Yeah, so this is a post request, so it's probably not going to work. I just want to test what happens if this is still working. Yeah, it's still working. This is my follow notification. All right. Okay, so form and upload are broken naturally. Yeah, the reason for that is because Rika is because EIO needs a capability to access the file system. So not EIO, but Dream needs an EIO capability to tell EIO. Yeah. So we could seriously. Okay. So we take an EIO capability here, but it's only a clock network random number capability. So if we like, I don't know what the capability is called yet. I haven't looked in detail, but if we like took like whatever, then we wouldn't. I'm probably going to convert like basically like there's going to be, as I mentioned before, a Dream like a dash EIO dash pcap, and it's going to probably, I don't know actually how to do this. Like for basically simple usage for like newbies, I really don't want them to be dealing with like EIO capabilities in general, like as just an OCaml thing, not like just a Dream thing. But if I'm like, if I had like say overall of OCaml, I wouldn't expose like force everyone, especially newbies, to use capabilities, because it just makes everything much more awkward unless you need it. But if you do need it, then of course it's very nice to have capabilities. But yeah, so like these things are necessary for Dream no matter what, right? Because there's no way for Dream to work without a clock network and a random number source. But a file system, Dream can work without a file system, right? Because you can just compile everything you need into the executable. And there's an example that does that. So it's kind of like not a good idea to include a file system capability here, but then you have to pass it in where you actually use the file system, which is a little bit annoying. I think that's like not the like. I think that makes Dream much less fluent for beginners, right? Because they immediately are faced with this kind of like weird EIO thing. Okay, so static works. Upload does not work and should not work. GH. What's SQL? Let's see if SQL still works. I didn't even press shift. But I believe this example has a form. Yeah, it's gonna have a form anyway, so we're not really gonna be able to test it as a post or request that it's expecting. So I believe GraphQL is not working. It's happening. It's kind of weird. Right, I'm gonna just assume that I have like a socket open and then bind is like failing or something like that. Yeah, it's probably something like that. Okay, in that case, I think we've looked through enough of these examples for today. I'll probably just look through the rest of them offline, and many of the more interesting ones won't work until the post requests are fixed anyway. So yeah, I'm probably gonna just wrap up the stream. If you have any more questions or you want to discuss anything else, it's probably like we can just do it now. Yeah, on Monday I am definitely going to stream on Monday. I already made time for it. So I'll probably continue with some of this review. I'll probably do a bunch of it over the weekend offline. I'll continue with some of this review, and then maybe we can switch also to some other projects just for a little bit. Otherwise, it's like almost always the same thing. Maybe we'll do some bisect. I have to like port to a new version of the pxlib. I have no idea like what to do in that PR in that change set that I have to make. So I guess we'll be learning how ppxlib works nowadays. Yeah. So yeah, maybe I'll try to debug this to wind the stream down. Probably just kill this terminal window. Yeah, I don't remember how to check the ports. But it should be like it should be able to just like grab the port from whatever is running, given the options that are we pass to the server when it starts up. So anyway, I don't know why it's broken right now. It's probably just something to do with my environment at this point. I'm starting too many servers and killing them in polite fashion. Although I don't see any processes running. Right, I'm gonna stop doing this. It's not gonna be efficient on stream. Yeah, I spent like 5 hours this morning porting. Besides git bug, I'm also using TIG as the git viewer. So I spent like all morning reconciling the vendor libraries that are in EIO with the ones in master, with the ones that are needed by Mirage, and just finding one set of commits that is like compatible with all of them. So now like the PR and master are in sync, and it's easy to switch between them because I don't have to update any submodules because they're at the same commit in both the PR and the master. So it's just nice to have a neat history. Yeah, all right. All right, I'm going to wrap up the stream. Thank you to everyone. It was very informative. I got some good ideas like renaming. Renaming double fault to faultception. I like things like that. Yeah, I'm gonna again leave the chat running for a second. I think it's like even if I quit the stream, the chat continues to run. But I'm gonna just put the I'm gonna put that little banner or whatever it's called up, and I'll be streaming again on Monday at the same time. And if you have, by the way, if you have any requests or ideas or just something you want to talk about, please suggest it either at the beginning of the stream or before. Just ping me wherever. And because the stream can be about, it's actually OCaml office hours. It's not just like Dream, like PR slog only. So yeah, please let me know. And yeah, enjoy. All right, I'm putting myself on mute and putting that thing up.